I finally feel like I can have joy no matter what comes because I have learned to trust God. I have learned to trust myself. I have learned to trust the process. And that is something far more valuable than like money.
Welcome to Wealth and Wisdom Together, the podcast that guides Christian women to financial fulfillment by walking boldly in your steward identity.
We're your hosts, Willa Williams and Wesley Eccles, founders of Trinity Financial Coaching and Sisters in Faith, here to help you align your money with your vision.
If you're a high-achieving woman earning well but still wondering, why don't I feel further along? You aren't the only one who feels that way. And we're here to remind you that your path to wealth is unique and spirit-led.
That's why each episode equips you to manage money confidently, live life purposefully, and build wealth intentionally without compromising what matters most.
Because you're listening or watching, you're already on the path. This podcast is here to help you keep going with faith, clarity, and real-life strategy.
So like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss another episode, any episode at all. We're on this journey together.
Welcome to another episode of Wealth and Wisdom Together. I am Wesley Eccles with Willa Williams, and we are so excited to be here today to continue our conversation about the power of coaching, courses, community, all the things that help bring structure around your finances so that the pieces of your financial life aren't just scattered all over the place anymore. You have a way to create some borders around it. And we talked about that a couple of episodes ago about the four borders, but that messy middle, once you have to you get the borders and the framework, all the pieces in the middle that are all over the place that you're trying to figure out, how are you now going to make this picture come to life? We do that inside our Wealth and Wisdom Steward Circle. And we're so excited to have a special guest with us today, Dr. Timeka Tounsel, who is a member of the circle. And we are so proud of her journey and the things that she's been able to do in the circle. And we're so glad to have her on the podcast today with us. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome,
I'm grateful
Timeka.
to be with you both today.
Welcome. Listen, we are so excited really to have you here. And we have some questions that we want to ask you so that you can share with our audience your experience and your journey through the circle. So let me just get started.
Okay.
One question, our first question. What was happening in your life or with your money that made you say, I need to be a part of that steward circle?
Ooh, well, the Steward Circle came up for me at just the right time. I had already been a client of Trinity Financial Coaching, and I had just moved across the country. I was living in Pennsylvania. My family and I moved to the Seattle, Washington area. And that move came with still in the same profession, but new jobs, working at a different university for both myself and my husband. And the move coincided with, for him, a promotion and also increase in income and salary for both of us, as well as anybody who knows, we were living in central Pennsylvania, increase in cost of living, significant increase in cost of living. So I was kind of scared or intimidated, I should say, by all this change, which felt like it was happening at once. Before that change, especially in terms of our financial picture, felt like it had happened more gradually. And this felt like a significant amount of change all at once. We were also, in terms of finance, and people who are parents will appreciate this, our child was about to start kindergarten. So we were going from paying the, just really high costs of full-time preschool, private preschool, to for his kindergarten year, we had him in public school. So we went from paying, thousands of dollars a month to nothing. So that was also, that felt like a raise in and of itself. Honestly. So yeah, that's what was going on. It was a lot of transition and a lot of trying to get acclimated to a new reality.
It sounds like you had been doing your research as you knew that you were moving into an area with a very different cost of living.
Yes. Yes.
In doing so, did that make you have to do a lot of adjustments toward your regular budgeting that you were doing? You were saving $1,000, we see.
No,
Uh-oh.
because I didn't have to do a whole lot of adjusting because the financial framework that we lived according to didn't really change. So the numbers themselves change, but the proportions, so, our values hadn't changed, right? And so, of course, within the Steward Circle, we learn about how to do values-based budgeting. So and of course I knew all of this intellectually, like I said, I had already but it was the new numbers were shocking. And this was also a time where I'm almost like, what time aren't people talking about, oh my gosh, the economy's in free fall and all that. Well, of course, this was coming out. This was 2022 when I moved. So it was coming out of the pandemic, and I was inundated with a lot of crisis or fear-driven financial discourse. And some of that I just exposed myself to on purpose in doing my research, right? And so I recognized that also I was preparing for this. So before, we had been having conversations, my husband and I, with Weslea about what to do. We were preparing for a potential change because we had decided that we were either going to move to a different home because where we were living, our neighborhood had become very uncomfortable. The political climate was becoming just untenable for us. And so we were either going to if we had stayed at the same institution, we were going to live in a different area than where we were living, or we were going to move to a different institution, right? So either way, we had been saving, preparing to move. So we were also prepared, if that makes sense. And I mean, we were in a position where we could, negotiate. We both had leverage because we already had jobs. We had been working very hard. The institution that we were at would have loved to keep us. So we had multiple offers that we were weighing. So that was a blessing, but that was also intentional.
Right.
We had worked ourselves to get to that position. So because of all of that planning, although it felt abrupt once I was living in it, the reality is it should not have felt like that, I guess, just because we were prepared. So it wasn't a financial shock, but my emotions and like my mindset had to catch up to the new reality.
I love that you mentioned that, because you had shared with us that your household income had increased significantly, that you realized how much fear and other limiting beliefs were impacting how you thought about money.
Yes.
And so that's an interesting dynamic, because a lot of people have this association with the limiting beliefs and the stress and the fear when you are quote unquote lacking resources. But here you are, someone who's like, no, I have the resources. I'm planning for this day to come, and this day is here, and I am paralyzed. I am just like, what am I supposed to do? So since joining the Steward Circle, what has been the biggest mindset shift that you've experienced about that dynamic with with money and wealth and those limiting beliefs?
That's a good question. The biggest mindset shift has been trusting myself, trusting God, and trusting the process. And I think that it's one thing to like say, obviously you all say that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one thing to say that, but I was in a position, I had been given this gift of an opportunity where I could really get over the hump, if that makes sense. And it's still an ongoing process, which is why I stay in the circle, because it is, for me, countercultural in terms of some of the environments that I find myself in. But it is truly about, I mean, everybody knows who has bought a house. Once you buy a house, it's funny because we had sold a house, had so much equity in that house. And you feel rich. And you have and we had no debt. Our mortgage was our only debt. And then you feel poor. Truly, I mean, because that bank account goes from but that's what it's for, right? And so trusting the process of, but more money will come. Trusting the process of just the flow of one's career. That, if you are positioned, and of course I'm speaking from a very specific, and I understand privileged place, economically privileged place. And so I'm aware that that's not necessarily the case for everybody, but for us as professionals, the reality is what we were coming into, the salary that I made that first year moving here, although it was the most I had ever made up to that point in my career, it was the least I would ever make at this new university, right? So sort of sitting with that and understanding that and trusting that more increase would come, trusting that, also learning that I am a trustworthy person. Yeah. And there's a conversation that I had with, this has actually been a lesson I keep having to relearn. And I know it's interesting because each of you, as you guide the circle, do it with different kind of energies. And, the auntie, so Willa as a financial auntie is like, girl, go buy that thing. If it's something that I need and I've been saving for, but for some irrational reason, I don't feel like I have permission. Like, Willa has been the person to give me permission. We moved in here a year or 2 years into living in this house. We have to get an entirely new roof. And Willa's like, girl, you gotta have a roof.
So I don't think it was said quite like that. But if that's what you heard,
but the reality of it, it's a roof. You're not talking about something frivolous.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the money to do this. You have been saving. And yes, your savings will be depleted. You will rebuild it, right? So the practicality of that and giving me the permission of that. And then with Weslea, we were having a coaching session, a one-on-one session, which is such a great part of being in the circle because you get the group and then you get the one-on-ones. We were in a one-on-one and I was talking about, I think, a lot of guilt I was feeling about ways that I had been spending money because I had been buying things or spending money in ways that I had never done so before as an adult. And, getting more luxuries. And I didn't feel deserving. And you said to me, it's almost like you think that Timeka is like this irresponsible. There's this other Timeka who's irresponsible and you want to keep her in the corner. Like you can't let her get free.
I remember
And
that
I realized that's
session.
how I was treating myself.
Mhm.
Not like the person I am today,
Mhm.
who is responsible, who is reasonable, who takes time,
Mhm.
who is spirit led, who also is in a completely different financial situation, right? I was still like punishing myself
Mhm.
because of this poor decisions that I made, poor
Mhm.
financial decisions I made at the end of college, beginning of grad school, especially. And I never wanted to go back to I was in what felt like for me a lot of credit card debt. It was because I was broke. So I was like, wait a minute, I didn't use the credit card this month. How can the bill be higher? Interest. And so and I felt bad because I had known better. I was in financial classes as a kid and all that. I
But
knew
we've all
better.
been there. We've
Yeah.
all known better. We've all said, you know what? I know I really can't I really can't afford this right now, but I'm just gonna put it on this card and I'll take care of it. The
Yeah.
interest kicks us in the teeth. We get over it.
Yes.
We pay it off. We
Mm-hmm.
get back on track.
Yeah.
But when we get back on track, we can't continue to hold ourselves in shame and
Right.
in guilt and
Right.
condemnation
Mm-hmm.
about, did we learn the lesson? And if we learned the lesson and we're no longer making those same decisions, let's move forward. And so to be in a position where you're like, I can't use this credit card, or I can't buy this thing because I bought something similar, when I was quote unquote being irresponsible. Now I can't buy that thing now. Well, you couldn't afford it then.
Right.
You can afford it now.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a different day. Yeah.
It's a different day. It's a different thing. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, I do remember that session, and that was a breakthrough.
It was
Yeah.
big.
That was a big breakthrough in that session. And that, because that was leading to what I was gonna ask, is a specific moment when you realize that the circle is actually working for me through a breakthrough, a win,
Mhm.
or a
Mhm.
success you're proud of, but you have already, shared, like you said, with the group coaching that we do. And then to have the opportunity to talk one-on-one, because there's some things that come out in the group coaching. And again, spirit-led, it is spirit-led. And so that's how we know what to talk about in group coaching.
That's right.
But then things prick your heart or prick your spirit while you're in that group session, you have the opportunity to go deeper in your
Right.
one-on-one with us.
Mhm.
And I do love that aspect that we're offering in there. And so, yeah, I'm so glad that you shared that. So glad you shared
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so am I. I remember also the one-on-one that Timeka is talking about. And she was so concerned about not spending the money on her roof. She did all the work,
Yeah.
this contractor, that contractor, but it was the number. But then when you begin to consider what are the consequences if you don't do it? and
That's
that
what I
was
heard. You
another.
like, you need a roof.
If it's raining and you have an umbrella,
That's
put up
right.
the
That was one
umbrella.
of those breakthrough moments. Yep. So, okay, I know where to put the buckets on certain days. That was not the way to live. So, yeah, I'm so glad that you heard that and you saw it. But most of all, you were prepared for it
Yeah.
Yeah.
and could see and trust that you could rebuild it. So,
Mhm.
that was really great. That was really great.
Yes.
If your paycheck is strong, but your plan is shaky, savings feels fuzzy, debt lingers, and retirement keeps getting pushed till later, you know you're capable, but you just need a clear path forward. That's why we created the Wealth and Wisdom Steward Circle, faith-centered financial coaching for women who want clarity and confidence. And inside, you'll get monthly group coaching, monthly one-on-one coaching, co-working hours, and a sisterhood that keeps you accountable while you align your money with your values. Now imagine stepping into the new year with a clear, spirit-led money plan and the support to live it out. Apply and enroll today. Secure your spot in the Steward Circle. Doors close November 4th. Hit the link in the show notes to get started.
So let me ask you another question. How do you feel being a part of a faith-based coaching community? How has that shaped your financial journey differently from, than just doing it all by yourself and going alone?
The faith part is important to me because that is when you talk about values-based budgeting,
Mhm.
or a values oriented way of approaching finance. That is one of my core values for our households is faith. And I joke every now and again with my husband that, I could be doing something else, making a lot more money than I'm an educator. And we are able to live comfortably with the resources that we have. But I know what I could make as a corporate communication professional at this point in my career because I have friends who went that route. And and I know what those bonuses look like, but we have chosen to be led by purpose. And so we have faith that by aligning with purpose, our God-given purpose, for my husband and I, he's also an educator, that all of our needs will be taken care of, and that the sense of fulfillment that we have cannot be achieved any other way. So that this is, which is something that's bigger than money. Because once you have your needs met, right, then everything else is like icing. And we get to have some of the icing as well, but it's the faith that we will be sustained because we are making decisions that are in alignment with what the life that God has called us to, or some of the roles that we feel that God has called us to. As people talk about like guilt watching, I do sometimes. There's a few financial personalities that they interact with the public, and I watch and laugh because it's guilty in that I do think that these things are slightly exploitative, but I bring that up because I am attuned to how other people approach finances that don't have a faith component. And it just is a lot bleaker and a lot more discouraging. And at the end of the day, especially when you talk about like mindset and behavior change, people, like, you can talk to somebody and be like, well, you're not going to have any money to retire. Like that in and of itself may not motivate someone to start making different decisions. You have to have, I think, a higher power that motivates you. And for us, that's God, right? And that's where our faith comes in. God is the reason. God is our key sustainer, right?
Yes.
Our key provider. We understand that everything that we have comes through God, and that God has given us the energy. God has given us the talents and gifts. God has opened the doors. God has given us the favor, all of that, and then we flow through it. So that's just how we do life. And especially when it comes to finances, because I mean, we would not have moved here if it was not faith. Without faith, we would not have moved at all. We would have stayed in this comfortable, we know what the numbers look like. It's 5 people in this little town that we were living in. We can drive home to Detroit, is, like home to me. We can drive home, we can do, versus we about to move into an entire different time zone. I was telling Willa a few weeks ago, the West Coast is a different country.
Oh boy.
And that turned out to be more and more true. But politically,
and I keep thinking I'm West when I'm in Arizona. I mean, I'm kind of West, but I'm like
kinda,
Southwest, but it's not like due West. So it is different. You are due West.
Different. Yeah, time zone, but also just how people do life out here is different.
Culture.
Yeah, exactly. So it took a huge faith move. And people who meant well or didn't mean ill, people spoke a lot of fear over us. But when we were preparing to make this decision, especially because of the financial piece, people said a lot of fear, spoke a lot of fear over us. And, we moved forward anyway. And, we figured it out. And I remember somebody said something to me. I was having a conversation before we moved, and we couldn't come visit before we made the decision to take the jobs because they were still under, not lockdown, but they were still under more strict COVID policies at the university. So somebody was like, but you've never been to Seattle? What are you going to do? I was like, well, there's a bunch of people who live there and they live in houses. They figure it out every day. We will figure it out.
Right.
Like they got houses. It's not, but it was like, but, and people are like, oh, hands down, it's going to be this much more expensive than where you are now. And you're not going to do it. It was so much fear, and faith is what got us. Plus I'm a little bit rebellious too. And so I'm like, I'm going to show them. But then I was so deceived because I was scared.
And then the calls come. Okay, I made a decision and I'm scared. But no, I like that you said that from the standpoint that, some people hear us talk about financial fulfillment and that it's faith-based, and they just feel that it's all fluff and that, you don't have to do the work. And none of this are what we're saying, and nothing that we're teaching in the circle, especially as it comes to achieving your milestones, is you just like sitting down waiting on God to do it. No, you do have to do.
You have to do the work.
And so, as you said, you prepared for the move. You are still saving for your future. We've done a scope to see what your retirement outlook is like. It's not that you're just sitting around waiting, and you're making decisions, and you're still making decisions based on purpose and fulfillment, not led by the dollar. And so, and that's the steward identity. That is one of the main things that we lift up in this circle. And that's your ability to surrender and trust, surrender all to God, trust God, your ability to establish a kingdom mindset, which is what you're talking about. Like it's bigger than just the next promotion or my next ability to get money, right? You're walking in wisdom. You are aligning your money with purpose. You are releasing a scarcity mindset, which is exactly what you were experiencing. I'm making more money, but now I got all these limiting beliefs that are coming up. And oftentimes we don't know we have them until we make more money.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And so you're embracing the abundance, and then you're daring to live generously, and that was always one of the pillars of one of your money pillars was being able to be a generous giver. I'll never forget one of your earlier coaching sessions, your fresh air fund. Yeah. And I was like, what's a fresh air fund? She was like, that's a fund that we have where we put money aside. So if someone needs whatever,
we can be a breath of fresh air.
We can be a breath of fresh air to someone else. And that has always stuck with me. And that's also the power of coaching. The power of coaching equips you to know that you are the expert of your life.
Yes.
Because you have a relationship with God. And our role is to come alongside you as a coach and honor that and help you figure out your next move in Him. Not for us to tell you what to do, not for us to say, no, that ain't gonna work. I wouldn't. You know what I mean? That is help you pull back the layers and figure out what your next move is going to be, your next best move to get you closer and closer and closer to fulfillment. And
Mhm.
that's what we aim to do. So
Truly,
yes.
truly. But I
So
just
did
think
you
about, now I think about just sitting here and listening to you, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a perfect person who has just listened and worked and prepared, and more than that, has trusted. You have
Mm,
not only trusted yourself, you've trusted God, and we bless God that you've trusted us as well,
mm,
because your what where you are now, your outcome, I see the borders on the puzzle.
mm.
I'll never forget when you first started with us in the circle and you talked about all of the financial information that you had, but what am I supposed to do with this? All those pieces.
Yes.
You've learned, you know what your core values are. Those are your borders for you. And you've learned how to take all the different scenarios, the different situations, the way life was going to be in Seattle versus the way life was going to be in Pennsylvania. Okay, just throw all the insides of that border out. And now we got something new. So you put all the new pieces in, and this is how we can make it work in Seattle. And you've done that, even with the rebellious little point that you said that you have within yourself.
It's
But
little.
you've shown how to do that, and we
Mhm.
are so appreciative of that. You express so clearly the meaning of the steward identity, not even saying the words, but in your actions and what you're saying, as Wes
absolutely.
has explained the acronym and what they all stand for. You surrendered, you've trusted, you have been engaging, you have been wise, you have asked God, you have followed him, you have aligned, you have the scarcity mindset. And like Wes said, it is hard sometimes for you to recognize that you have a scarcity mindset until you have funds. And now you say, well, why should do I deserve this? Yes, you do. Yes, you do, because
Mhm.
you're doing the work, and you do. And your heart has always been, again, to give. So we truly appreciate you being here. What I want to ask you another question. And where you are right now,
Mhm.
what's possible now for your future that you didn't feel was possible before you started this journey?
Ooh. Oh, that makes me emotional in a good way because I'm so grateful. Joy. And that may sound woo woo and but what I mean by that is, you know, in a lot of other you can sign up for lots of different kinds of programs that will tell you how to make more money or tell you the basics because they all kind of say the same thing about like how much you should save and investing and da, 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 da. Got it. That's the like simple part in terms of the technical aspects, but but you still feel the same way. You still have the same fears, insecurities, doubts, stress, even after you follow all those steps. And so I think that what's possible for me is I finally feel like I can have joy no matter what comes. And because I have learned to trust God, I have learned to trust myself, I have learned to trust the process, and that I'm gonna be, and because it's a process, I'm no longer afraid of being at the beginning, seeing the account if we've had to make a large purchase go down back down to zero. I can still be like, okay, yeah, and it's fine. Like the and that is something far more valuable than like money. I feel like I have a kind of freedom, truly financial freedom, right?
Mm.
Where
Mm-hmm.
it's not dependent on the numbers. And some people think about financial freedom as a number, but I think about it truly as like a mindset. And like I said, I have
Mm-hmm.
to be continuously fortified.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to present like I don't still have struggles and that there's a part of me, because here I am, I'm just being coached about another car thing. And I'm
yes.
that's how it all started, was a car thing.
Because I wanted to ask you, but I was like, you know what? This is not her session, but I do want to know.
It's like that. Here we go. But after I had this session, I feel like I have a quicker bounce back now. I'm like, girl, relax. You know what to do in terms of the car. And it's like, just trust yourself. But every now and again, because again, there's so much fear-based stuff out there, and any transaction that you do, I feel like that's actually one of the primary marketing tools that's being used these days, is fear, not freedom. Fear.
Yeah.
And so when you have to transact with, these people in various aspects of the marketplace, you are being subject to that. So I would say that is what's possible. I know that no matter the situation, no matter what happens in terms of our income, no matter what decisions we make, I have a joy. I have freedom. I know how to make decisions. I know I have the tools to use, and it gets better and better each season, because I'm in, I started, before the Steward Circle, a long time ago, single, then married, then young mom, now mom of a, slightly older mom.
Yes.
Right? And then still very young. But, and I'm just excited about what comes next. And there's now, when I look at my finances, there's now stress. I'm not like, I feel more at ease. I feel a lightness. Money conversations don't bring stress in our house. And even though we have limitations, right? Like there's plenty of stuff. We were just talking about something the other day. Personal training is something that Chris has invested in right now. And we're like, okay, we're going to have to take a pause after this package. And then you grew up in the new year, right? Like, we still have limitations. So it's not, the joy doesn't come from like, we can just throw it in the bag, right? There is many a handbag that I have to leave in the store, okay? But
I understand.
that I choose to leave in the store because I have other things that I want to do. So
there it is.
It is, but it's having a joy in that, instead of feeling like, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that, or feeling like you have to rush. I think some of the financial programs out there are so focused on deprivation and like, hurry up, because something bad is coming. So you've got to get out of your mortgage, get out of debt, And your program is a lot more flexible while still being realistic, right? We look at the actual numbers.
Yes.
But it's also like, okay, but you put them in context. What's going on in your life right now? What's going to be coming up in the next few years? And at the end of the day, like, for me, it's knowing, because we did something expensive for our son. We put him in the special summer camp. And I had some stuff about that because it was so expensive. And I was like, oh my goodness, all these kids are so affluent and But Leah was like, you are also affluent. And I was just like, I just don't know, because, I don't want, Cairo to think he did. And so it's knowing that, well, if our values align with providing something for our child that edifies him, that sets him up to be prepared and be able to access whatever purpose God might have for his life, which is our supreme one of my top values, right? It's fine. And so I'm learning to have more joy in that, joy in even when I do, say, well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take that back. I'm not going to get this big fancy thing that I thought would bring me joy. So that's what's possible for me, a joy, freedom and joy that you don't get it just by following the rules, because I am a really good rule follower. I'm rebellious, but like I know how to follow the rules.
And the beautiful thing about what you said is the fact that the increase comes. You see the increase.
Yeah.
Even though you're not chasing the increase.
Yeah. That's right.
But in making the decisions that you're making to make sure that you are living a purposeful life, a life, and making sure that your money can fund that life, what you see is that, you know what, at the end of the day, I'm still inching my way to that ultimate place of wealth that people are marketing.
Yeah.
People are marketing the ultimate place of wealth, void of its impact on your life and well-being. And we always lift
the
up
whole point.
The fivefold areas. Like you have spiritual aspects of your life, mental, physical, social, and financial. So how are you balancing all of that if the only thing that you can focus on is just one thing? If you're only focusing on the finances, what about the other 4 areas? And we can't deplete ourselves in those other 4 areas chasing after the dollar.
Exactly.
And so the word of God tells us, seek ye first his kingdom.
Yes.
And his righteousness. And then all these other things will be added unto you.
Yeah.
And so when we get the order correctly of what we're supposed to be seeking, as you have mentioned, then everything else aligns. Everything else comes.
Yeah.
And you don't have to chase it. And that's exactly why you have the joy that you have, because it's like, I have harmony.
Yes.
I have harmony.
Yes. And it comes through, like, to me, it's through the wisdom that you get. It is sometimes through financial resources or another opportunity, or, you know, what they say, like, what's better than having a boat, having a friend with a boat.
Right.
Like one of the first things we did, we got out here, Chris has this colleague, and they have this fabulous house, like it's a lot of islands out here. So on Bainbridge Island, and they took us on our boat. We didn't have to buy no boat. We like, hey, we just experienced like the island waterfront house. It was fabulous.
Yes.
And to have our son experience that was amazing. So it's like, it doesn't always come. I think some people, especially to your earlier point about like the faith-based, some people might think it's like this kind of prosperity gospel, which is sort of a narrow thing over here. And I think that this is something totally different. Like, you still do life. You just do it more comfortably. You still have financial reality, like, you know, but and as we all know, you start making more money, your bills get bigger often, but
sometimes
it's the wisdom that you get, it's the faith that you get, is where all these things will be added to you. It's not necessarily like, the things aren't necessarily material.
You're right.
Things is what I guess I'm trying to say here, you know, that's not what the joy is. And I'm emphasizing that because I used to think that's what it was. And part of my lack of joy was that I had a picture in my head, when I make 6 figures, this is what my life is going to be like.
You got to let that
go.
And
it was nothing like that.
Yeah.
And I've had to, you know, like, Chris drives like his car is like 6 years old. I would have never, like, when I was younger, I would be like, we got to have like you know, and before that, we had a car that we had driven for like almost a decade. Anyway, just bringing up that it's not about the material, it's about you have a freer relationship to material wealth. You are able to see money as a tool, and you're also able to see the wealth of all these other financial, you're able to see all the resources that you have.
Yes.
And you're able to recognize wealth in the fullness of what wealth is, and that like I can say no to something that may bring in more income if it doesn't bring me more peace. That's wealth.
That's it. That's wealth.
Yes. Yes.
That is financial fulfillment. When you can make those type of decisions and be okay with it.
And you are clearly walking in it. The way you have learned how to use money as a tool to feed all the things that you value. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it. I just love it.
Well, Timeka, we are so glad that you shared your story with us. Again, the Wealth and Wisdom Steward Circle will be opening for enrollment October 20th. So go to our website, go to our show notes. You'll find all the information there so that you can apply to be in the Wealth and Wisdom Steward Circle. We are waiting and willing and excited to serve you through all of the programming that we have there with the, like Timeka mentioned, the group coaching, the one-on-one coaching, office hours so you can get stuff done. We have online classes. It is a full, robust package to help you put the pieces of your financial life in order with support, accountability, and community. Timeka is part of that community. Our group calls are great. We share, we laugh, we have aha moments.
Yep.
So thank you again, Timeka, for sharing your story and for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
Truly.
Yeah, I love you both so much.
I love
that.
you.
Thank you. We love you back. As always, our end goal is for you to activate the power of your steward identity and discover your unique path to financial fulfillment, just as Timeka has done. Trusting God, trusting yourself, and trusting the process. So bye for now and continue to tap into wealth and wisdom together. Bye-bye.